When most people think of IKEA, their minds go straight to flat-packed furniture, affordable home accessories, and those iconic showrooms that turn window shopping into a 4-hour maze. But hidden between the bookshelves and bed frames lies one of IKEA's most surprisingly popular departments, the food section. From Swedish meatballs and lingonberry jam to frozen salmon fillets, potato pancakes, chocolates, and plant-based snacks, IKEA's food offerings have carved out a loyal following. Many customers even swing by the store just for a meal or to stock up on a few favorites for home. IKEA markets its food as part of the Swedish lifestyle: clean, simple, affordable, and trustworthy. The packaging is minimalistic and friendly. The ingredients often sound wholesome and Nordic. There's a sense of authenticity that makes people feel like they're getting something different, maybe even healthier than the average frozen food aisle. But beneath that blue and yellow veneer is a lot that IKEA doesn't tell you. Because while the furniture might be DIY, the food isn't always as transparent as it looks. Let's start with the most famous item in the IKEA food empire, the Swedish meatballs. Every year, IKEA sells over 1 billion meatballs globally. They're iconic, comforting, and covered in creamy gravy. But what exactly is in them? For starters, the traditional meatballs are made from a blend of pork and beef, not always clearly stated on the front of the package. That matters for people with dietary restrictions, allergies, or religious guidelines. The ingredient list also includes things like potato starch, onion, breadcrumbs, and flavorings, a vague catch-all term that can cover anything from spices to artificial enhancers. In the past, IKEA has come under fire for its meatball content. In 2013, tests in Europe found traces of horse meat in IKEA meatballs sold in several countries. While the company quickly pulled the product and claimed the contamination happened at the supplier level, the incident raised eyebrows about how much control IKEA really has over its food supply chain. After all, most of the food isn't made by IKEA, it's outsourced to third-party manufacturers, many of whom also produce for other brands. The meatballs are then frozen, shipped across continents, and sold under a friendly Scandinavian name. The same goes for IKEA's salmon products. IKEA promotes its fish as sustainable and responsibly sourced, part of its overall green marketing strategy. But some of the salmon is farm-raised in large aquaculture operations where antibiotics and overcrowding are known issues. Even when labeled ASC certified, it doesn't mean the fish lived a healthy, natural life. It just means it met the bare minimum standards for aquaculture certification. Customers see sustainable and assume it means wild-caught or clean, but those words aren't interchangeable. Then there's the lingonberry jam, a staple on IKEA plates, paired with everything from meatballs to toast. It's tangy, sweet, and undeniably Scandinavian, but it's also packed with sugar. A typical serving contains around 10 grams of added sugar, making it more of a dessert topping than a health food. And yet, it's often positioned as a tart, superfruit alternative to jam or ketchup. While lingonberries do have antioxidants, those benefits get drowned out when combined with so much added sweetener. The same goes for IKEA's elderflower syrups and flavored drinks, many of which contain artificial flavors, preservatives, and high levels of sugar, despite the wholesome-looking labels. IKEA also leans heavily into the trend of plant-based foods. Its vegan meatballs, plant-based hot dogs, and veggie snacks are promoted as ethical, environmentally friendly choices. And to be fair, some of them are. But that doesn't mean they're automatically healthy. Like many plant-based convenience foods, IKEA's alternatives are still processed. The veggie balls, for instance, are made from a blend of chickpeas, green peas, carrots, bell peppers, and corn, but also include ingredients like maize starch, pea protein, sugar, and natural flavorings. The plant-based hot dog has even more additives, including stabilizers and emulsifiers. These aren't whole food, clean ingredient options. They're engineered to mimic the taste and texture of meat while keeping shelf life intact. One thing IKEA is particularly quiet about is how much of its packaged food is ultra-processed. From frozen dishes to sauces to baked goods, Many items in the food section are industrially produced, flash frozen, and loaded with stabilizers to survive long global transport. That cinnamon bun you pick up from the bakery section, it might have been frozen for months before being reheated in store. The cookies, often made with palm oil and artificial flavors, even though the packaging emphasizes tradition and authenticity. Palm oil, in particular, appears in several IKEA food products. While the company claims to use RSPO certified palm oil, certification doesn't always guarantee environmental or ethical practices. Palm oil remains one of the most controversial ingredients in the global food industry, linked to deforestation, habitat destruction, and exploitative labor practices. Yet you won't find any of this on IKEA's cheerful packaging. Most customers assume that a Scandinavian brand must follow stricter standards. That assumption can be dangerous. IKEA also walks a fine line when it comes to allergens and food sensitivities. Their labels do list common allergens like gluten, dairy, and nuts, but not always prominently. Some frozen items contain milk powder, soy, or wheat even when they appear vegan or gluten-free at first glance. For someone with celiac disease or a dairy allergy, a misread label could result in a serious reaction. And because many of the food items are imported and labeled under IKEA's own branding, ingredient sourcing isn't always easy to trace. And don't forget the additives. Many of IKEA's ready-to-eat meals and sauces contain preservatives, colorings, and artificial flavorings. These include common food additives like sodium nitrite, used in cured meats, citric acid, used as a preservative and flavor enhancer, and potassium sorbate, used to prevent mold in baked goods. None of these are inherently evil, but when customers believe they're buying something clean and European, they rarely expect to find the same chemical additives they see in American convenience foods. The frozen desserts and chocolates are another sneaky culprit. Take IKEA's beloved almond cake, for example. It's rich, creamy, and beautifully packaged, but the ingredient list reveals hydrogenated oils, refined sugars, and artificial flavorings. The same goes for many of the chocolates sold near checkout counters, imported from Eastern Europe, often made with vegetable fats instead of cocoa butter, and sweetened with glucose syrups rather than cane sugar. They may look artisanal, but in many cases, they're no better than what you'd find at a dollar store. Even IKEA's seemingly simple breads and crackers aren't always what they seem. That crunchy rye crisp bread likely contains added sugar and preservatives. The soft rolls? Made with refined flour and enriched doughs, not whole grain as the packaging might suggest. There's a carefully crafted illusion of rustic homemade tradition, but it's really mass production with Nordic branding. Another overlooked issue is portion size. IKEA's packaged foods are often small and appear harmless. A single frozen gratin or vegetable medallion doesn't look like much, but many of these items are high in sodium, fat, and calories relative to their size. Eat a few and you're easily hitting a full meal's worth of intake without realizing it. That's particularly risky for people trying to eat healthy or manage conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes. And let's not ignore the broader supply chain concerns. IKEA sources food globally, using suppliers across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. While the company has made commitments to sustainability and transparency, it remains a retail giant with complex logistics. Tracing the journey of an IKEA food product from source to shelf is nearly impossible for the average customer. That lack of traceability makes it harder to know where your food came from, how it was processed, and what kinds of labor practices were involved. There's also the illusion of affordability. Many shoppers assume IKEA's food is cheap and therefore a good deal. But on closer inspection, that 250-gram bag of frozen salmon or 180-gram chocolate bar can actually be more expensive per gram than comparable products in a regular grocery store. The prices are cleverly set, just low enough to seem like a bargain, but high enough to deliver solid profit margins for the retailer. And because everything is presented in charming packaging with exotic-sounding names, you're more likely to buy on impulse. That's the genius of IKEA's food section. It wraps convenience, exoticism, and perceived health into a single shopping experience. You came in for a bookshelf, but you left with 3 frozen curries, 2 jars of jam, and a bag of oat cookies you've never heard of but felt compelled to try. It feels curated, special, even gourmet. But in reality, it's a very carefully branded version of frozen fast food. To be fair, not all of IKEA's food is bad. Some items are relatively clean, well-sourced, and tasty. Their oat-based frozen dessert has fewer artificial ingredients than many mainstream options. Some jams and crisp breads are fairly simple and minimally processed. And for those with dietary needs, IKEA has expanded its vegan, lactose-free, and gluten-free offerings. But the key issue isn't that the food is terrible. It's that the marketing doesn't match the reality. Customers believe they're getting something clean, European, and authentic, when in many cases it's processed, preserved, and industrialized. That disconnect creates a false sense of security. People who would never buy frozen meatballs from the grocery store happily throw IKEA's version in their cart because they trust the brand. IKEA isn't lying, but it's not telling the whole truth either. And in today's food landscape, where transparency and clean eating matter more than ever, that silence speaks volumes. So the next time you walk past the food section on your way to checkout, take a moment, flip over the package, read the ingredients, look past the minimalist design and Swedish names. Because while the food might be packaged in a box as neatly as your new dresser, what's inside might not be what you expect. And when it comes to what you feed yourself and your family, glossy branding shouldn't replace informed choices, even if the meatballs smell amazing, even if the cake looks picture perfect, and even if it all fits in your cart with room to spare.